What's up, guys? We are episode 12 of the Four Lifters by Lifters podcast. Today we have pro bodybuilder Jeff Long with us. He's also the owner of Leica Pro Supplements. What's going on?
What's up, my man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, even if you're got no car accident on the way here.
Oh, man, I know. Finally get to come up here, do the podcast, train, and somebody hits me.
Yeah. I like just chatting with you about normal shit because I feel like I can talk shit to you, and you just like accept it, and you talk shit back.
I mean, especially in this day and age. I mean, you say anything to anyone. I mean, now it's you have to watch what you say. You know, so many people get offended so quickly, but it's whatever. I mean, have fun. I mean, you can't go through life, being offended by what anyone says. Just have fun with it.
I was joking around with a rep before, and obviously you're different. You're a rep and a brand owner, right? So a little bit different, but I was joking around with a rep before, and he got super bent out of shape about it. And he was like, please don't talk to me like that. I'm like, all right. I see where the line is now.
Damn.
So, yeah.
No, I don't think I have a line. I mean, you know how I am on social media. I'm an open book. I'm straightforward, and if you don't like it, then who cares?
Yeah. So let's dive into like your career as a bodybuilder. I think that is probably one of the most intriguing parts to me. You started bodybuilding at a young age. I think you said you were lifting with your father.
Yep. Started lifting when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Actually watched Pump and Iron when I was 10, and that's what kind of sparked the let's lift some weights. 10 years old, watched Pump and Iron, and I remember telling my dad, I want to look like those guys. And he just said, all right, well, tomorrow we'll start working out. I mean, my dad always lifted.
Yeah.
So I just went downstairs in our basement with his old plastic cement weights and started training. And
Okay.
it just never looked back.
So you did your first show when you were
20.
20? Okay.
20 years old, first show. I wanted to compete earlier than that, but for some reason, even though I was a wrestler, I was an athlete all through, elementary, middle school, high school, I couldn't get on stage. I think it was, I don't know if it was stage fright because of the posing trunks.
Yeah.
But eventually I just said, you know what, fuck it. I ordered trunks online. I had no tan on my first show. Got the trunks, went and competed. And did pretty well. I mean, there was like 7 or 8 guys. I ended up getting 4th. Had no idea what I was doing.
Were you in open or is that like a junior class?
I did novice and open.
Okay.
I they were like, I just do the novice, get your feet wet. Nah, I did both.
Yeah.
Just jump right in.
You might as well because you just know where you stand. And at 20, like you're an adult, you're a grown man. If you want to treat yourself like a grown man, then you better compete in grown man classes.
And it's funny because speaking about that show, I got 4th. Wasn't in shape, I wasn't fat, but I wasn't anywhere near contest shape. I was the most talked about person in the show, just because of my age, because of the thickness that I had, and just my overall build.
Yeah.
Versus everyone else that was in my class and competing.
So we both know the Bunda family, Colton, Austin, Rich.
Yep.
So they started shopping with me when they were young kids, and Rich would bring them in. But they trained hard at a very young age, and I think that has a lot to do with their success in bodybuilding now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear stories like Sean Clarita, who was in last week. Same thing. He started relatively early with the weight training and that kind of stuff. Do you think that plays a big part in like your puberty and your development years in having weight training?
I think it does for the fact that if you're starting to lift and work out at a younger age, you're building a foundation versus someone who comes in, all right, I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm just going to start lifting, and then they want to move to the next level, which we all know what that is, and
right.
Using performance enhancing drugs, especially in bodybuilding, they haven't built a foundation. Versus someone who's been lifting since they were 12, 13, 14. They already had that solid 4, 5, 6 years of lifting. Whether or not if it's hardcore training at 13,
right.
You're still, working out and building some type of foundation with your body.
Yeah, my biggest, I was weight training when I was younger, but I never took it consistently or too seriously. And I think the part for me that I regret is just the proper execution on the lifts, right? As you get older, you tend to get tighter. So when you kind of keep restarting, you might not be in proper position to execute the lifts properly. You might be benching or something, but using more shoulder than chest.
Yep.
Simple stuff like that. And I think when you start at a young age, your body's a lot more mobile. so it can move into different positions, and you have to find what's the most powerful.
It's more mobile, but at the same time, when you're that young, your mind is geared toward, especially when you're 12, 13, 14. It's like you're learning from someone else. You're learning from someone older, and you're learning how to train properly. So you fast forward to, a lot of people these days, like kids that are 18, 19, just getting into it, they are coming into the gym not training properly. They can't even execute, a dumbbell curl correctly. And you give them 4 weeks, 6 weeks in the gym. If they're not making progress, they want to start, hey, what can I take to increase my progress, etc. And it's just the wrong mindset to have. It's like they need to just take that 1, 2, 3 years and just learn the basics.
That's for everybody, though. Not even just,
No,
not
it's
kids,
for
right? For like adults,
it's for
too.
everyone. Everyone who's just starting out should learn the basics of training. Whether or not you're going to be a bodybuilder, but just learn how to train and execute, lifts properly.
Yeah.
Or eventually, you're going to, your body is going to develop not equally, and then you can, have a chance of being injured.
My fear with the kids that want to be enhanced quickly is that they don't learn how to eat, train, recover properly without it.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that they progress is by more. And we know, with all the recent stuff in bodybuilding, we know that doesn't end well.
Nope. 9 out of 10 times it leads to, deaths. And that's what we've been seeing a lot lately with. And the other issue, what you already hit on, was that you have to train right, you have to eat right if you're gonna, to make sure everything comes together as a whole. You can't do one without the other. You need everything to be clicking it, equally.
When you were training, were you training hard and heavy? Were you looking for just stimulus? Like, what was your methodology with that?
Depends. I mean, when I was 10, 12, 13 years old, it wasn't about weight. I was just still learning techniques. I was still learning exercises, properly how to train. As I got older, obviously, you want to push the weight.
Yeah.
Especially when I got into high school. I mean, I broke, multiple weightlifting records, bench press records, at a body weight of, I was like, my freshman year, 160, at like 5'2". And I think
you were probably ripped.
I was in good shape, and I think I did the record was 190 pounds or 185 pounds for like 11 or 12, and I did like 19 times as a freshman. I ended up benching like 365 my senior year. So it was weight, but I still made sure my form was good. I didn't go in there and just train like an idiot.
What about when you were, like after your first competition, you were pursuing your pro card? Were you training like hard, heavy compound movements?
I've always trained hard. Hard. Obviously, I train hard.
Yeah.
But I've always trained heavy. But I never trained without having really good form. So if I'm benching, I don't bounce the bar off my chest. If I can't do it, I lower the weight. Can't really say that for squats because I don't squat. But like rowing, I don't really jerk weight. If I can't pull it, I lower the weight. So the muscle that I'm training actually does the work.
Okay.
And that pretty much goes around for, that goes for all my body parts.
Okay. What about, this is an off topic, but usually when I see bodybuilders that have great calves, usually they were heavy as children. And I feel like the extra load of the foot moving them around, might stimulate the muscle.
Stimulate the muscle.
But you weren't. It doesn't sound like you were heavy at all. But your calves,
no, I was.
Are in their own zip code.
There's a difference. I mean, being heavy and fat, or just being husky. It's like I was solid. I was never fat or soft. I've always been husky, like hard and just like a farmer.
Okay.
But my legs I've always had since I was little. I've always had thick legs.
It's just, yeah. So I had thick upper legs, but I
Mm-hmm.
never had big calves at all. I mean, it terrible. I'm just going to blame it on genetics, but I was a baseball catcher, as I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier. So obviously my legs were always stimulated from doing that.
Right.
So I think that helps a lot. So You turned pro at what age?
25.
25.
Yep.
And you retired at
33.
33.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're 36 now.
Yeah.
Okay. Why'd you retire?
I mean, 13 years, literally every year I competed multiple shows. I just had my firstborn, and when I had my firstborn, I don't know what it was. It just kind of clicked on my head where, all right, I'm gonna start prepping for the next show. And then when I went to, do the cycle, do what we do, I just couldn't do it. It's like something in my head, in my mind, was just like, you don't need to do this. It's like, don't do it. It's not worth it anymore. So after my firstborn, it's like I end up doing just the Baltimore and Tampa, and that was a last minute prep. I prepped for 8 weeks. It's just like a crash diet prep, and it was probably one of the best looks I've ever had. 8 weeks of prep, basically just went no carbs for like 8 weeks, and then did Tampa 2 weeks later, and then just
That was it.
like, yeah, I just didn't want to do it anymore. It's just, I think I got tired of stepping on stage and almost feeling like, all right, I feel like I brought a phenomenal package. I'm in shape, and it was just like, I'm not getting looked at. It's like, I'm on stage. Why aren't I getting looked at?
Well, I think it's strange because when we first started talking about your product line in our store, we're probably looking at what 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
It's been a while. I remember like clicking on your profile and seeing pictures, and I'm like, holy shit, this dude's probably gonna be like Mr. Olympia. Like, you just look crazy on stage.
I mean, that was the goal. And I really thought when I competed in 2016, that was, Victor's comeback. And we kind of knew everyone was competing. We were kind of fighting. We were going to compete for second, given the name, who he is, and, what Victor brings to the stage. And, we go through the call-outs. I'm my first call-out. I'm battling Vic and whoever I forget two other guys. Go back to finals an hour or so later, and I end up 8th place. It's like, kind of put a, kind of really pissed me off.
So you feel like the IFBB might have maybe specific goals with who they're grooming?
Yeah, and it could be because I just don't kiss ass. It's, if I don't agree with something, I don't like something, if I think something's unfair, I speak up about it. And I've tagged plenty of judges in the day, with my posts, because I don't care. It's like, if you're going to a show, I think the best man should win, not based off of, oh, well, their sponsor gave us $10,000 for this show, so make sure he does, well, make sure he's not out of the top 5.
Right.
So they might deny it doesn't play a role, but I'm sorry, but it really does. And then I decide, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm doing Tampa in 2 weeks. So booked my stuff. I have no sponsors, paid all, I had my own company at the time.
Yeah.
So booked my trip, went to Florida, did Tampa. Worst place I ever had in my life. I was like 20th, right? And that's when I was like, you know what? I ended up going to Disney that Sunday, with my wife and with Jackson. He was like 8 months at the time. Went downtown Disney, had fun, and then we flew home, Monday. And I just, you know what? Cleaning it out, just going to train for myself, stay healthy, and that's it. Focus on my brand. And that's been the mindset ever since.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on stage. Well, I guest posed last year in Utah. I couldn't get out of that. The promoters kept messaging me like, Jeff, I want you to guest pose. So I guest posed.
It pays, right? You do it, right?
Yeah, I made a lot of money. So I guest posed, and a lot of people were like, when you guest pose, you're gonna it's gonna click in your head that you miss being on stage and you want to get back on the stage. All right, well, I guest posed. I talked to my wife like 20 minutes afterwards. She was like, so, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel fine. It's not like I was dieting for a show and compete. She was like, no, how do you feel? Like, are you going to get back on stage and compete? I go, no. Zero desire to want to get back on stage. Now, did I enjoy guest posing, going in the crowd, taking pictures and all that? Yes. But getting on stage, going through that whole process again, it's behind me now. It's like, I have 2 kids now. my company is growing.
Killing it. Yeah.
Every month, my numbers go up. Except for March and April with COVID. They took a dip.
As long as you didn't flatline, it's all good.
But now it's like my mind. It's just business, my family, and that's it. I mean, I don't think being on stage will benefit me really in any way. I might have some Instagram, fame for a day. Like, oh, Jeff came back. Maybe for the weekend.
Yeah.
After that, it's people move on. All right. Oh, what's in the news on Monday morning?
Might as well just die for a photo shoot and make people wonder.
Yeah, and well, that's basically it's I since I've stopped competing 3 years ago. It's like I stay in shape. I just stay in shape, and now like I was telling you earlier, I just did actual real content for my brand for the first time ever. And being in shape actually helps. Being in shape helps. And now I'm going to Florida. I'm going to shoot more content for the brand, and I'm just going to stay in shape. Stay in shape, have fun, film content, training videos, and
I think people's desire to compete really depends on the roots that got them into the sport, to begin with.
Yeah.
I started weightlifting, I don't know, when I was relatively young. Same thing, concrete weights and, standard bars and these crappy benches. But I did it because I enjoyed it, right? And it was just something I would do to either let off some steam or to fill time. We didn't have social media to play with back then. And it's just something I would do. I had no interest in ever competing in powerlifting.
Yeah.
And then some guy talked me into joining the Penn State powerlifting team when I transferred over there. So I did that for 2 years, and I always said, like, after my last national competition, like, I'm done. Like, I only did it just to challenge myself. And then after that, like, I'll just keep going to the gym and, like, doing whatever. And
it's because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I actually touched base with someone about this last week. It was actually one of my Q&A questions. And it was about retiring, like, why am I still so gun-ho training every day? Why do I eat clean, protein, vegetables most of the time? And it's like, well, I don't do this just because I competed. I've been doing it since I was 10. I enjoy it. It makes me feel good. And I enjoy it.
It's kind of vice versa for you. You competed because you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And, obviously, at the time, it's like, yeah, I want to be like Arnold. I want to be like those guys. Be in a magazine. I made it in a magazine. I want to be on the cover. I made the cover. Now, did I get to the Olympia? No. Did I get to the Arnold Classic? Get an Arnold title? No. But maybe it just wasn't in my cards. Maybe it was use all the stuff that I did with bodybuilding, branding myself, whether it was good branding, bad branding. I mean, publicity wise, it's good and bad, with me. And all that kind of just drives into my supplement brand,
Yeah, I feel like you've done a really good job with that, and you're following. They just love you. Like the fact that you answer. I mean, you used to answer ridiculous amounts of Q&A questions. I don't know if you still do that volume, but
I do. But some I get a lot of spam, and then there's a lot of questions that I just stop answering because it's the same old questions with drugs. And it's like, dude, you look like you never lifted a weight in your life. You know what? I am not even answering this, giving you any advice whatsoever, because someone like that, which I get a lot of them, it's like you have no idea what you're doing. So most likely you're just going to hurt yourself, and I don't want any part of that.
Do you think that like the PED culture of today is just strange?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I also think that the use of it all is just never what I would imagine now. Especially what we would do back in the day. Granted, okay, when in 2006 and 2007, people knew what I did, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was with the mad scientists. But once I learned, it's like I never did what I did in those 2 years ever again.
Right.
And now it seems like what I did do then, that's like a mild cycle now. And now you tackle on all the peptides and all this other stuff. It's like people are literally you're shooting 50 times all these different things every day, taking this, taking that. It's become really, it's a sport. People can't say, people say bodybuilding is not a sport, but it's really become just drugs.
Yeah.
And to me, I just don't want any part of it. I love bodybuilding, but what it's become, it seems like people now, you have people, they're averaging, they're 260, 270, 280. It's just, it's insane.
They don't look good. Like from like I'm a normal person, right? I'm obviously half the size of you,
Hmm.
uh, but like you look good. You look healthy. You can hold a conversation. Your skin's not beet red and
Hmm.
purple. You're not. It's hot in here, and you're not profusely sweating. Like
I'm hot, but
yeah, like I said, it's hot in here. But you see these guys up on stage, and they look like they're gonna pass out, and they
hmm.
don't look healthy. They look like something's about to go wrong. That to the general public, which is what I consider myself, like that that's not desirable. I
No,
don't want to be that,
it's
and I think
not.
that's what's killing
And
bodybuilding.
I think that with the people now that are just have the mindset of just wanting to be so big, in the end, it's just gonna backfire because you can only hold it so long. It's like, yeah, I at 2007 I hit 200 and 2008, sorry, 290 pounds. Never went that heavy again. But as I got older, it's like I learned that being that heavy, carrying that much weight, it's just it's pointless. It's not healthy
Yeah,
for you to carry that much weight, which is why it's like um, I stay the way I am now. Even the last few years when I was actively competing, I mean I was like I don't know 255, 260, whatever, which is still big,
it's
but
huge.
it's not 290 pounds. It's not 300 pounds at my height.
Yeah,
I think the way bodybuilding is going now, people need to actually do the opposite and focus on just coming in smaller and just have a better look. Like, just don't look unhealthy. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it would rebuild the sport, and it would just interest people again because it would be more attainable physiques.
and the thing is, I understand, like, when you go to the Olympia, people, they come to see the freaks, right? They come to see the big guys. If you have 5,000 people at the Olympia, those stands are going to be stuffed for the open
Yeah,
versus, say, bikini, classic physique. But at the same time, bodybuilders, they want bodybuilding to be mainstream, just like any other sport, right? If it's mainstream, it's going to bring in more money. Well, if you want it to be mainstream and bring in more money, don't be my height and be 300 fucking pounds.
yeah.
It's just not. It's not a good look for everyone. If you want to be mainstream, you got to be. What's the word I'm looking for? You want to be. My whole mind just went blank.
It
You know,
happens.
you want people to look at you from like an everyday person, like, wow, you know what? He looks really good.
Like
I
a
want to.
Mike O'Haron.
Like, I want to look like that. Like that's why I think classic physique, classic bodybuilding, is becoming so big, because like a body like that, they're not enormous. They're in between physique and bodybuilding, and for the average person, all right, they may not get to that level,
Right.
but they can get to somewhat in between physique and classic bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But when you take a guy who's 300 pounds or 275 pounds, it's just like, I don't want to look like that. And then what kind of attention does it bring on bodybuilding? It's like, well, we're just basically promoting drugs.
Yeah, and that's where it's at, right? And you have guys like, yeah, I'm not gonna say his name, but the guys on the internet that are just telling people that the guys at the Olympia are taking $40,000 a year worth of gear and other things, and people are just like, so that's all that is, and they just automatically assume that just more is more, and that if you want to get to that big, you just gotta take that much stuff.
And the thing is, it's if you need to spend that kind of money, go
It's
find something
crazy.
else. Go find something else to do. Go golf or something. I mean, I've not. It's like speaking about like HGH. It's like that's something like I'm super open about, which I hardly ever use my entire career as a bodybuilder. In the beginning, I did, but it was a low amount, 2 or 3 I used, which is nothing compared to you see what guys using now.
I know guys smaller than me taking it. I don't
Yeah.
even understand why.
And I used it like I think 3 or 4 months for one of my preps as a pro. I never used it because I never saw the benefit versus what it costs. All you were told and was, oh man, HGH is gonna build slabs of muscle. No, it's a bunch of bullshit. Okay, you're gonna feel big because it's gonna make you hold water.
Yeah.
But 7 to 10 days later, when you stop, uh, all that
goes
fullness goes away. The water goes away. You know what I mean? So when I'm 40, is it something that I can implement at a very, very low dose, say 1 IU, for like tendon health and just overall health? Yes. Is it going to build a physique into Mr. Olympia? No, it is not.
I mean, you've always been pretty health conscious. Focus on your diet, but you also, I think, you get blood work done pretty often. Yep. Do you think that is kind of missing from today's bodybuilding too?
Blood work is as well. I mean, the sad part is people will spend thousands on gear and not spend a couple $100 on blood work.
I think they're afraid of their doctor saying, "Hey, something's wrong here. You need to stop whatever you're doing."
Yeah, I mean, it could be they're in denial. I mean, they don't want to actually see the truth, because blood work is going to tell you exactly what's wrong with you.
But even when you walk into like a regular gym, like there's always a bro that is just on some stuff, right? He looks good,
Yep.
but not to your level, but he looks good. But they're always at least around here, they're always purple. I mean, just straight purple. So they're willing to take the stuff, but they're probably not doing their cardio. They're probably not eating correctly, right? They're eating enough to build muscle and maybe synthesize whatever they're bringing in. But you can, if you take the right stuff. I mean, as an average person, you can eat some junk and still look pretty good.
Yeah, you can.
They take cycles to grow and shred up at the same time, but they're not really monitoring their health.
No, and
you can point them out.
And you can point them out. And that's the sad part is that, what I try to do when someone comes to me at a younger age and they want to, start their cycle, this is what it was, is that I know what I did when I first started, and I know what I did throughout my entire career, right? Which was mild. Today's standards, it would be considered a bikini cycle. And that's what's sad. The thing is, when I tell people, well, this is what I did, but you don't need to do this, I already went through that entire process. I've been 290 pounds. You don't need to be 290 pounds. It's just not healthy. You can take a different approach, take this approach, and you'll be healthier, longevity, and it seems like whenever I try to tell someone to do that, it's like they kind of just go off, oh, well, I went and talked to such and such, and they said you have to take this.
I feel like people never believe you.
Nope.
Whether they blame it on your genetics or they blame it on whatever.
They don't believe me now. It's like I posted pictures from the shoot this past weekend, right? Which I was like 225. They're like, man, how are you so big? And you haven't done a cycle. You're just on TRT. I don't believe it. It's like, well, first of all, I'm 225. My last competition, I was in the upper 230s. On stage, in stage shape. So I'm almost 15 pounds lighter. So what can't you comprehend? And in my off season, I used to be an average 260, 270. Now I'm averaging 230, 235.
Yeah.
If I, like I am right now, because I decided to, eat some food. What's so hard to comprehend?
I think it's.
Am I supposed to shrink up to 150 pounds? Because you see a lot of bodybuilders, especially even older guys back in the day. It's almost like, did you guys just do it for the moment? Because now you're retired. You retired 10, 15, 20 years ago. You look like shit. You're fat, and you look like you never lifted a weight in your life.
Yeah, you see that a lot, and I think it goes back to the roots that we talked about before. And plus, I think they're just doing it for a specific goal, and then after that, they're just completely checked out of it. And it's a different love for the sport.
Yeah.
right? And you see that with regular athletes too, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
I was watching the Jordan documentary, and Jordan doesn't look like he's running around and he's in the best of shape. He's got a little pot belly on
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and I feel like that just happens. Like if you go so hard for so long, eventually you just mentally check out.
Yeah, I mean, you could burn out, and I mean, I could say, I kind of got burned out. I mean, I competed literally 13 straight years, multiple shows every single year for 13 years, and but once my mind and everything kind of regrouped in 2017, it's like I still didn't get back on stage, just because but I didn't get back up on stage, but I still continue to train. I still continue to eat healthy, not 8 meals a day. I eat
Right.
like 4 meals a day because there's no need for me to eat that
What's
much.
what's a healthy meal to you? Like, what are you eating?
An average meal to me, like I eat, I'll have like white fish with, a big serving of vegetables,
So that's
or
all you're eating? I mean, you're not putting any oils on it, anything to
no,
boost your fats up?
no, I just take my omega 3s in the morning and before I go to bed, and then whatever naturally occurring fats are in, chicken breast or shrimp or white fish. I'll have a steak every day, but it's lean,
Yeah.
or grass fed beef. So there might be 15 grams of fat, 20 grams of fat from there. Other than that, it's just a lot of vegetables, with my protein, my lean proteins or my shakes.
So you're almost eating a ketogenic diet without the added fat portion of the keto.
Yeah, pretty much. Like today, yesterday and today, like I woke up today, I had a shake first thing in the morning. That was it. I woke up hungry. I was like 6 a.m. Just had a shake, went and laid back down. And then before coming here, like, got to be 2 hours prior, 2.5 hours, I had a cup of oats, strawberries, and I had like 10 ounces of steak. And that was my meal. And then I'll eat again. I'll have a shake when I'm done, and then I'll have a meal before I go to bed.
And the only reason you had the oats is because we plan on doing some training.
Yeah, I mean, I just decided the last 5, 6 days, I want to start having at least one meal of carbs, and I'll have it before I train. Because I usually eat a couple hours before I train.
Right.
Just depending on my schedule. So it'll be 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like today, it'll be a good 3 hours before I had that meal.
Damn
Which
car
is why
accident.
I have my intra carb sitting right there with my aminos, and that's about it. I mean, other than that, if I have my cheat meal on the weekend,
I think people don't believe what you say because of how simple it is in your head. Right? So like your
or
process
it's so very little. They say, how do you maintain your size eating so little?
you're probably still eating a ton of protein though.
Yeah, I'm still getting in 1 gram. I shoot for 1 gram. I mean, of lean body mass, so I get in around 220 or whatever.
Is that includes shakes?
Yeah, 4 meals. I mean, 2 scoops of protein for a shake. A 10 ounce, steak is like what 60, 70 grams, and then a chicken meal. And if I have another shake or another,
It's low.
it's what I've been having. I mean, and on the weekends, my protein's even lower. Just because I'm having, higher carbs because of my cheat meal or granola or whatever, cookies.
Do you think you can eat that way because of how long you've had the muscle mass on you?
No, I came to the conclusion a couple years back when I lowered my protein. I was eating, 350, 400, 500 grams of protein when I was competing. And after I stopped competing, you know what? Let me do an experiment. I lowered my protein, ate my vegetables, whatever carbs I was having, and I didn't lose muscle. You know what I mean? You would think lowering your protein that much, the muscle would just come down. And
Yeah.
now it's 3 years, I eat around just a gram of protein. And the only reason why my muscle mass is down is because I'm not on drugs.
Yeah.
I'm not on a cycle. So I can take what I'm eating right now and bump up my carbs some, throw in a cycle, I'll be 250 in 6 weeks on 1 gram of protein per pound. So I've come to the conclusion that if I wanted to compete again, go into an off season, get back up to 260, 270, I can do it with 1 gram of protein, increase my carbs, just to have, be in that, surplus of food. I don't think we need all that protein.
Does this work with your clients? The same approach?
Yeah, I mean, all the clients that I train, I mean, Lou, just
Yeah.
five ounces of protein.
So I'm just wondering, like, if you did such high protein to grow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was the thing, is you always wanted to be in supply of the amino acids that make up your proteins,
Right.
right? You wanted that in your blood. So
But on top of it, I'm also, when I was eating all that, I'm going through a roll of toilet paper every day.
yeah,
So at the same time,
very
how
true.
much your body, you could take in I talked to someone about this a while ago. You can take in 1,000 grams of protein. Your body will utilize every single gram, use what it needs here, there, wherever it needs to go, your muscle, whatever, and it's going to excrete the rest. This is how it is, how the body works. So I don't think anyone actually has narrowed it down to the point of, all right, we don't need more than this amount of protein a day. From this study, that study, we just don't need it. Your body is going to get rid of it. We only need 0.12 grams, 5, whatever grams of protein per day. Nobody has come to that
Well, it's got to be
specific
different
amount
for
yet.
everybody. Like, it has to
I
be.
think to a, I,
Different blood types, different
I think
genetics.
to a certain degree, because we all stem from the same.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? So that's why I say you give a little bit here and there. It's like, all right, this person is slightly different. Everyone's slightly a little bit different, but we all stem from the same. You know what I mean?
Are you a big science guy?
Um, so and so, I become more into the science part over the last like 4 or 5 years. Back then, I guess as they call it, what, bro science, like bro split training and bro science. It's like, yeah, I gotta eat 1,000 grams of protein a day to grow. I've moved away from that, and I don't believe it
That
because
wasn't.
I've been eating less protein,
Yeah.
and I'm not small. The only reason why I'm down in size is because I eat my protein, but I don't really eat any carbs.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm in such a deficit most of the days, and I'm not on a cycle. So now let me put myself into a surplus of food, right? Keep the protein the same, bump my carbs up. Add fats in there, just so I'm eating 4 or 5 thousand calories. Now let me put a cycle in there. You're just gonna grow.
Yeah, but when I ask about the science, I'm asking about, like, obviously new diets evolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the if it fits your macros thing was huge, a few years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that has since evolved into maybe we should follow macros but eat the right foods as well, right? And that's kind of what's trending now, which makes sense because it applies science with what makes your body
Yeah, I
healthy.
think a combo of both. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with taking, if I have 50 carbs left for today, okay, I'm just going to eat 50 carbs from, say, marshmallows, Rice Krispie treats. Because to me, that's just not a healthy option. You
But
know what
you
I mean?
also wouldn't.
But is it going to hinder the goal? I don't think it will. And I think I come to that conclusion that even though I don't agree with eating that, you can still get to the goal that you're trying to get to.
But I think where the bro science kind of ties in is, if let's say you had 50 grams of carbs and that was your only macro left
Mm-hmm.
for the remainder of the day,
Yep.
and you train in the morning. Let's hypothetically
Mm-hmm.
you train in the morning. You wouldn't just eat 50 grams of white rice and go to bed either, right? Like, to fit your macros. If you're going to implement your carbohydrates, it's going to be mostly pre and post training.
Yeah, for me, yes.
So there's some theory there too.
But there is, there's studies out there saying, well, I think Mark Loblander touched base on this a while ago, is that as long as you hit your macros, say you're at 200 for the day, say carbohydrates, you can literally push that off the entire day and eat 200 carbs before you go to bed. You hit your target, your body will use it, no different than having it pre, post, or spread out through 6 meals.
You,
Now, do I 100% agree with that? No, I don't. It's like the other theory or whatever is out there with protein. People who fast for 23 hours and they eat 250 grams of protein in one sitting,
God.
and they get all their calories in one sitting. Now, do I think fasting has its benefits? Now, but shoving 5,000 calories down in one meal, it kind of defeats the purpose, of giving your body that break, fasting. You're shoving all that food, and your body, I don't think, is going to utilize that food as if versus spreading it, over 4 meals or so, because there is, from a science standpoint and studies, having that amino acid through your blood every 3, 4 or so hours benefits you
Yeah.
versus not having anything for the rest of the day. All day and fasting for 20 some hours.
I think intermittent fasting and implementing fasting is probably one of the most confusing things to the general public.
It
And
is.
a lot of people, like, let's say you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And you start intermittent fasting. Most people just cut off breakfast, eat their normal lunch and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if each meal is 1,000 calories, so you go from 3,000 to 2,000, you're obviously going to lose weight.
And that's the other issue with when people say, "Oh man, I've been intermittent fasting and I'm losing body fat, or I'm dropping weight." Don't even say body fat.
Dropping weight, yeah.
Just dropping weight.
Always.
Well, yeah, because you literally cut a full meal out. So you went from 3 meals, now you're eating just 2 meals. So your overall calorie intake is lower.
Yeah.
So you're going to drop weight. Anybody will drop weight. It doesn't make it. Oh, intermittent fasting is weight loss.
Did you ever read the book Carbohydrate Backloading by Ed Kiefer?
No, but I know about the whole carb backloading thing.
That was the first real diet I ever tried to implement when I was in college. I was 20 at the time, and it worked really well for me. But I was trying to bump to the next weight class, and I couldn't gain weight. I got leaner, and I was like, "Well, this defeats the purpose, so I'm going back."
Yeah.
But one of the things, that he almost had you do it in steps, right? So on non-training days, you eat ketogenic.
Yep.
On training days, you ate no carbs until you trained, and then when you went home, you would eat junk.
Right.
Cereal, donuts, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't protein heavy, but it would be carbs, mostly carbs, and then it would have some fats in there too. But the third step of it was you would intermittent fast in the morning. And to me, intermittent fasting paired with low carb dieting, forget about the backloading part, just makes more sense because you're not breaking your fast with a bunch of whatever it may be or junk, but you're going into a low carb state. And it just, like, concept-wise, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, I 100% agree with you on that. But with the intermittent fasting, it's just not something I do. I don't like it. I think there's too much misinformation, and too many people say it does this and does that. I don't believe it. Unless you're fasting for 48 hours, 36 hours. Okay, you give your body a huge cleanse. But the problem is when people these days, they intermittent fast or they fast, they break it with junk food. And I think that's the biggest mistake.
Because their cravings are so high from fasting.
Right. And I think that's the biggest mistake you can do to your body. It's like, okay, you just fasted, you cleaned out, and now you're eating pizza, ice cream, cookies, and all this sugar and fat and carbs. Think what that's doing to your insides right now. Like, you're going to just explode on the toilet.
Yeah.
I guess it's healthy. But with going back to, if it fits your macros, can it work? Of course. You can make anything work. I can make, look what I'm doing. I used to eat 8 meals, eat 4. I'm still big.
Yeah.
So the body can adapt, to pretty much anything. But I think there's a healthy way of doing it, and then there's a unhealthy way of doing it. Like with the macros, if it fits your macros, filling that void with junk, I just don't think it's the right approach. If you're going to fill it, have something clean. The whole point is you're eating healthy, you're working out. Don't feed your body junk.
You ever look back at, like, the 80s and 90s? When I started, there was a picture when I was 4. And my father used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I used to get up with him. And we used to do sit-ups and push-ups together. Like, little kid, I have this one photo of it. And, he was very fit and very active. He always had a six-pack. Looked good. He was my height, 160, 165 pounds. But that was the normal weight for, people that are 5'7", 5'8".
Right.
And, you ever look back at, like, that time period and you're just like, they didn't need any of these crazy techniques. They had to be active, eat relatively healthy, and they all looked good.
It was simple.
So why are things so
then,
complex now?
I think since, I would say about 2010, 2012, that's when all this new stuff started coming out with the diets and the, cookies and Rice Krispie treats pre-training and all this stuff. It's just not something I can get on board with. It's not simple. It's complicated because it's like, oh, 2 hours pre-training. Like from a coach standpoint, I need you to have this. 15 minutes after that meal, I need you to have this. Right before you train, I need you to have this. Then in the middle of your workout, go in the locker room, mix this up, drink that. It's become so complicated, and I think a big part of it is the coaching these days. Everybody back then didn't have a coach. Now there's thousands upon thousands of coaches now, and it's it's laughable. It's like, whatever happened. Well, what do you eat? Oh, protein, vegetables, and I'll have some carbs. Oh, you don't do this and do that. My coach has me doing this, and no, you don't need to do all that.
I think this is our 12th podcast. This is probably the 12th time that we've mentioned that most of the people that we've had on didn't have coaches to get them to where they were.
Yeah.
You just learn, like you figure it out, right? You fail,
Yeah.
and then you revise your plan, and you figure it out, and you continue to evolve.
And
So
that's with
it's
me.
just funny that you mention it.
Eventually, that's why with me, eventually, I never had a coach yet in bodybuilding. I did everything myself. It's because it got to the point. It's just like, oh, what am I doing? Like, it almost became predictable with what the coach was going to do next. It's like, why am I paying a coach? It's like, I know exactly what he's going to do next before he even sends it to me.
If you understand the concepts, then you'll understand how to implement it.
Yeah.
So people should, if they do hire a coach, they need to learn and use that person as a teacher.
And that's what the people, like, I'm not some full-time coach. I have like 10 clients. That's it. I don't have 50, 60, 150 clients. And I tell them, it's like, when you hire me, it's like, I want you to ask questions. Just don't take the plan and follow, and that's it. I want your feedback. I want questions, because you don't want to have me forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people say, well, yeah, but you make money. It's like, why would you tell them to do this? Like, because it's not how I am. It's like, you hired me. I want you to learn. Why do you do this? Well, I do it because of this. Well, what reason for this? This is why I do the way I do things.
I think a lot of coaches, they implement tactics that are confusing on purpose, because there's retention.
Yeah.
Right? Once you stop using my tactics, you're going to be so confused on what to do that you're going to need me or need another coach, and at least we're stimulating the industry there.
It's like prepping, going into an off season and then prepping for a show. This is bodybuilding 101. Let me tell you how simple it is. All right, you set your base.
You're going to piss people off, Jeff.
I am going to piss a lot of people off. It's like, this is how easy it is. Let's take me for instance. All right, say I was going to go back into an off season, go back on a cycle, and just come back next year. All right, I'm 225. Say, all right, I'm going to start off. I'll do, just say, to make it even, 250 grams of protein. Right. I'm going to start off at a base of, I'll start off at 1 gram of carb. Trace fats, just because I just never been big on fats. Whatever it's in my steak, if I have steak or if I have salmon, that'll be my fats, my omega 3s. Right?
What about whole eggs? Not a fan?
I am, but it's just, most of the time I have shakes.
Okay.
It's just quicker, especially with the kids. So now, if I went into an off season, I'll have a shake, just mix it up with my oats or whatever, and then trace fats. All right, so I get to a point in the off season, I'm at my peak. I'm at like 500 carbs, 250 grams of protein, trace fats. Now it's time to prep. What am I going to do? Well, first, I'm going to leave my diet alone. I'm going to implement some cardio. Most people don't do cardio in the off season. So, base 3 days, 30 minutes a day, right? Not touching the diet. After a couple weeks, once the body starts going, all right, I'm either going to increase cardio some, or I'm going to reduce my carb intake, because I'm not going to really touch my protein. Proteins,
it's a constant.
Yeah, protein stays the same. My fats are trace amounts. My energy source is carbohydrates. So that's the only thing I'm going to change in my diet. And that's 99% of people. It's carbohydrates. Unless you're one of the few that do an actual real ketogenic diet.
Right.
And then there is no carbs. You're going to actually fluctuate your fats.
Right.
And then each week, just, all right, I didn't drop weight. All right, I'm going to increase my cardio. And then reduce carbs. You just kind of just It's that simple. It's not hard. You know, pre-training an hour, hour and a half, I have my meal. I go train. Have my aminos, have my carbs, whatever. Post-training, have a shake or have a meal. You know, it's not as hard as people put it out there to be.
I think at the very least you can look pretty good doing that, right? Like you may not be Mr. Olympia, and they may not look like you.
But the other thing is too, there is so much. This isn't 2000, 2005, where you're getting all your information from a magazine, right? You have so much information on the internet now. You
Yeah.
can literally plug in your body weight and have basically a full outline of an ideal plan for you to, like an outline to follow.
Right.
You know, with you adjust as you go. You know, you can find a site that gives you the base of where you should be based off of your activity.
Yeah.
It's all out there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just
It's just a matter of trying
Just
it and adjusting
try
it.
it. And if you
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, then all right, whatever.
So, uh, just I remember you posting it a little bit, but what's your stance on vegan diets? Can people make it work in bodybuilding?
I mean, I haven't met a vegan pro. I mean, unless you have.
I haven't.
There is a couple, amateur guys that I know. Even one of the guys that buy my stuff, he's a vegan. Looks awesome. But at the same time, you're vegan, but you're on a cycle. So,
That's what I was kind of.
so
Yeah.
the whole vegan, I'm healthier than you because you eat steak. Don't give me that shit. But even in general, every diet, you can eat meat, like a normal diet like we eat, and be unhealthy from what we eat, right? You can be a vegan. You can be a very unhealthy vegan because there are a lot of vegan foods have a lot of shit added to it.
A lot.
You look at the vegan chicken, the list is like there's like 30 ingredients to make it. There's
lot of
maltodextrin in there. And
Partially hydrogenated vegetable oils.
yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be chicken, but there's 18 grams of sugar in it.
Yeah.
So just because it doesn't have cholesterol, I think we come to that point now. It's 2020. Dietary cholesterol, with if we eat from whole eggs and whatnot,
If it's attached to the protein source,
it's not
typically.
bad for you.
Yeah.
And
That was so. My fiance was vegan for a couple years, and since she's kind of rescinded on that a little bit, and she doesn't eat meat, but she'll do a little bit of dairy and eggs and
Mhm.
stuff. I watched her body change in 3 weeks when
Yep.
she started adding eggs into her diet. Her skin got better. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's flawless,
Yeah.
and she just looks amazing.
well,
And I just couldn't believe in 3 weeks her body wanted it that bad, and when she gave it to her, changed.
we're definitely going to get a lot of hate from the vegans. I mean, because they're like a cult.
They are.
But I mean, you bring up how her body, her skin, everything changed because vegan foods lack certain nutrients versus animal proteins and other foods. You take, for example, Arizari, John Arizari,
Name sounds familiar.
bodybuilder. He was a vegan for like 2 years.
Okay.
He used to eat the big bowls of fruit and stuff like that. You can just look him up on Instagram. Big kid. He's my height. He's probably like 260, 265 now. He did the whole vegan thing for 2 years. Was all about it. No meat, nothing. Just vegan, tons of fruits. And then he decided to switch. Went back to meat. His first meal, I think, was sushi, right? And he said in a matter of weeks, strength was up in the gym. The muscle was just piling on him. Everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything that was lacking, you can say, came back. Strength, just feeling better overall. So
Yeah.
I don't know, do we take that as proof that, you don't, vegan diets aren't superior as they say to eating animal,
When it-
animal proteins.
When it comes to the body, I don't think that vegan diets are superior. I don't. But the only understanding I have for vegan diets is really if it's a almost like a religious thing.
Mhm.
Like they don't want to eat animals. They don't want the stress on the animal's life and
Right,
the
but
dairy
don't-
farms and stuff.
I understand from a moral standpoint and all that, but don't sit there and say vegan diets are healthier. It's superior to eating a steak. So eating a pile of greens is superior to eating a steak.
With greens. That's how you're eating. So
I
you're
mean,
still eating those
I'm still
greens.
eating the greens, but I'm
Yeah.
having a steak, you
Yeah.
know? Because
Yeah.
I'd rather have, eating my grass-fed beef or whatever, even if you didn't get grass-fed because it's more expensive, it's real. I'm not eating fake chicken.
Right.
Like you see all the fast food restaurants coming out with the vegan burgers and or whatever it's called. I don't know.
I think that's just science and capitalism, right? Because vegans in the 90s didn't eat that stuff because there was no Beyond Meat or whatever that stuff's called.
No.
That stuff wasn't there. So when people were vegan, they ate vegetables and they cooked their meals, and those people probably were very healthy
Yeah.
because they had to get a variety of real food. Eggplant and zucchini and broccoli and asparagus and everything else.
But then you look at it like this too. They say you go to Burger King and get a Beyond Meat burger. Oh, this is so much healthier than eating the beef
Tastes the
burger,
same.
right?
Tastes the same.
But what's on the burger? They're still putting 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. They're still putting all the condiments on the thing, and with what it takes to make that burger, even I forget the ingredient is used to make the fake blood, like the juice, heme or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a GMO. It's genetically modified, and I forget what it is, but you don't know what the long-term effects are eating that. And then there was something else I seen like a month ago. It's some type of, they were doing it on a computer, like lasering beef, like making beef on a screen, and it's going to be like the new thing in restaurants, like steaks and all this other stuff. And it's like, really? Just eat meat. If you want a steak, eat a steak, because clearly it's like you must really miss your steak if you're going to go eat a fake steak. Just eat a real one.
Logic doesn't prevail all the time.
It's like I tell people this. I'm not a vegan. Do vegetables have nutrients? Of course. Fruits have nutrients? Yes. That's why I have vegetables, fruits, and stuff with my meats. It's almost like
you're covering all bases.
It's almost like politics. You don't want to be all the way to the left. You don't want to be all the way to the right. You want to be kind of down the center. You eat your vegetables. You eat your meats. Because it's like doing the carnivore diet, just eating steak all day long. I don't think that's the right way to eat.
No, I think it would wreak havoc on my stomach.
Yeah.
Over time. Like I just can't imagine that being any fun. But it's really an extremist version of a keto diet, which is even an extreme in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just compoundingly crazy. But I think for today we kind of have a time cap. So there's really just one other thing I wanted to touch on, and it's why you don't squat. Now everybody, you and Dr. Mike Israetel, we're going back and forth, I think, in fun. He's really big on squatting for stimulating the legs,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you have tremendous legs; they're massive.
Yep.
But you don't squat.
Yep.
Can you dive into that at all?
It's simple, yeah. It bothers my lower back, and it's always bothered my lower back, even when I was a young teen. Because that's what I learned. It's like, all right, we're gonna do legs, some extensions, squats. Even with the bar, it always bothered my lower back. And as I got older, older teens, early 20s, and I would try to squat, my lower back just inflamed. And my other exercise was always leg press. The high school had leg press, the gyms I went to had leg press. So leg press became my main focal point for legs. Lunges, extensions, and stuff like that, but leg press was my main builder. I think leg press, being able to change your foot positions, and it's a lot more functional than just squatting, and I think it's safer because you're not putting that pressure on your lower back.
Right.
I think you can build the same pair of legs that you're destined to build without squats. You can do it on a leg press. And I know me and Mike kind of went back and forth. He put a post up basically, if you don't squat, you're a pussy, you're a bitch, or whatever. And it's like, whoa, first of all, my legs are better than yours, and I don't squat. I leg press.
Yeah.
It's just how Dorian Yates didn't squat.
Well, I think that, again, just going back to like breaking things into concepts, if something's prohibiting you from reaching a certain threshold of damage on the muscle,
Mm-hmm.
then find something else.
Yeah.
Right?
It's almost, yeah, but the problem is people push this logic of, if you want big legs, you gotta squat.
Well, I think it's like a manhood thing, right? Like there's nothing more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is. It's like if you're not squatting, yeah, you're not a man. It's like chest.
It's the ultimate exercise, though, right? Like if you're measuring strength, there's nothing more impressive than somebody with a very strong squat.
Yeah, but I don't squat.
Yeah.
Now, I'll do other variations because it doesn't bother my back. Like I'll hack squat. Doesn't bother my back. Now, do I do it like a normal hack squat? No, I do it like a 60 squat to target my quads. I'll do the other. I think it's a V squat machine. Where
Like the one we have?
You face forward, you can face backwards.
Power squat.
Whatever it is. Yeah, I'll use
they're
both.
phenomenal.
I'll use both of them. I don't go heavy on the V squat because that angle, the way I angle myself, it starts putting pressure with the weight on my shoulders in the same part of my lower back that when I squat.
Yeah.
So I don't do a lot of that. If I do it, I do lighter weight. I do it, but it's just lighter weight. At least with that, it's controlled. It's in place. Squatting, if it starts bothering me, it's like that bar is moving. You just don't know where
There's
it's going to go.
There's stability issues, yeah.
So I just don't squat.
I was recently, we train legs here on typically Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I skipped this week. But recently I found that I was starting to number chase, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would come in, I do 4 or 5 for 10. Then next week I wanted 11. The next week I wanted 12. Yeah. And what I ended up realizing is my legs started atrophying because I was no longer stimulating the muscle in the leg. I was focusing on the weight, and that was making me use my joints more. Yep. It was making me put myself in a prime position for strength, but not muscle growth.
Yeah, not muscle growth.
And they're two different things.
Yep.
And it's just, you learn things and they evolve and you go back to ground zero. And so now we revamped our workouts, and we'll squat at the end of our workouts. So that way
you don't have to use as much weight.
Exactly.
And you're going to stimulate the muscle just as if you're squatting 500 pounds in the beginning and you're only squatting, say, 300 at the end.
Yeah, and you're not ego-driven at the end.
You're not ego-driven, and the body doesn't know. The body doesn't know whether or not you're squatting 100 pounds or 500 pounds. It just knows stimulation.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing with a lot of people these days, who don't learn the proper exercise and execution. They just want to get in there and just move weight, but learn the technique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, the overall development of the muscle is going to come as well, not just...
And that's something that, like, you're the 4th or 5th IFBB pro that we've had on here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I've learned from every single one of you guys that have been on is that your execution of each lift
mm-hmm.
is just absolutely phenomenal. And that has to play such a big part in muscle stimulus and growth.
Like one example, I know we're cutting time on this, but you take, there was a few bodybuilders this year that tore their hamstrings because they're trying to stiff leg 500 pounds. You don't need to stiff leg 500 pounds. You know what I mean? And you look at their form, it's like their knees are severely bent, and it's just like, to me, it's more ego driven. It's like, oh man, I just stiff leg 400 pounds or 500 pounds. You don't need all that. I'll stiff leg like 225 max. You know what I mean?
That's
nice
only
stretch,
been a high
nice
risk.
slow control, squeeze my ass at the top. And clearly, okay, it's genetics, I guess. But
yeah, it's always genetics.
I haven't had any, it's always genetics. But certain exercise, I just don't see the point. You don't need that much weight to stimulate that muscle, because then, like you're saying, it becomes ego-driven, and that can go with every exercise. Bicep curls, everything.
It always happened to me for years. I was benching in the 400s.
Mm-hmm.
I had the world's smallest chest. It was all shoulders and back.
Yeah.
I wasn't using any chest
and
muscles
once
whatsoever.
You actually lowered the weight, you actually started getting more chest development.
100%. For the first time in my life, which
and
is really
this
last
goes
year.
Back to older bodybuilder Ferrigno. He used to try and push tons of weight, right? And then when he got older, he wrote an article about it. He wrote it in the magazine, talked about it, that after he turned a certain age, he noticed he learned to lift lower weight, and more, focus on execution. And he actually grew his chest better with maxing out at 275 pounds. As big as he was.
Yeah,
275.
Yeah.
And obviously he looked the part. He looked phenomenal
he was still
as
competing.
He got older.
Yeah.
And he said he just never went that heavy extreme again. He just 275, just focus on the contractions, and was it. And that's what I try to tell people now. I understand you want to move weight. Everybody wants to move weight. It's like, yeah, you see me in the
Feels
gym.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the gym. I'll row. I'll stack them 180-pound dumbbells, but I'm bent over. I'm fully squeezing that dumbbell. I'm not jerking the dumbbell.
Yeah.
So my strength is there to pull it. If your strength isn't there, lower the weight, learn the technique, and allow that whatever muscle you're training to pull the weight.
Seems simple,
It's
just like the diet.
it's simple, just like eating rice and chicken. I mean, it's simple.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. This is episode 12. If you're not following Jeff already, he's pretty popular on Instagram. I think it's IFBB Pro Jeff Long.
Just IFBB long.
IFBB Long. So give him a follow. And we do have some of his training programs on our app, which is 100% free on the Google Play and iTunes store. Thanks, guys.